Hello everybody from Plant Reviews. Today 22nd of September, very sunny day, and I am now at the porch of my, well, obviously my front door, near my front garden, as you can see. And I'll discuss now about one of my most fragrant plants, definitely, and for sure the most fragrant I have in this period, and it's the tuberose, formerly known by the scientific name of Polianthes tuberosa, even if has been recently reclassified in the genus Agave, the genus of plants, as you know, that usually they flower just once in their life. They have a spectacular flowering, and they have usually succulent leaves, while the leaves of the tuberose are just semi succulent, as you can see. And actually almost grass-like at the end of the leaves. So it is a very peculiar species in the genus Agave, and I'll talk about it in a few minutes about the new classification. And so I will start about talking about this wonderful plant, about the natural distribution. The plant, as I said, is in the genus Agave, and is now classified as Agave amica, and it belongs to the family Asparagaceae, subfamily Agavoideae, and it is grown mainly as an ornamental plant, and it is native, it seems, to Central America, in particular to Mexico. The plant, the common name, derives from the Latin word tuberose, that also is has a very similar word in French, tuberose, meaning swollen or tuberous, and it is in reference to the root system that indeed is a kind of a tuber. The tuberose, as you can see, is a herbaceous plant, looks a little bit like a grassy, like a grass, and it grows from underground tuberous roots. Indeed, what you can usually find in the most common way to buy this plant, indeed, is from tubers that are sold in the spring planting season, so together with dahlias and most lilies. And this will need to be planted after the last frost, and or you can, even better, you can start earlier than in a greenhouse, and they usually bloom between late summer and early autumn. Obviously, the earlier you started tubers, the earlier they will flower, and the longer will be the blooming season. That will be accompanied not only by these beautiful flowers, but also by an incredible fragrance. So incredible, intense, that sometimes can be a little bit nauseating. Indeed, I had in bloom last year a variety called the Pearl, and is quite it has double flower variety, and is quite strong. It is a quite a strong smell. Really intoxicating. I could barely tolerate at home, so I had to bring the pot outdoors again in most of the time. While this one is the variety called the pink sensation, or sensation, and I bought it from a garden center in among the Taylor's bulbs in the UK, and it has still a very beautiful fragrance, but I think it is kind of more subtle. Do not misunderstand me, it's still able to basically perfume the entire room, but I think it is a better scent than the Pearl. However, obviously this is just my personal opinion. Tuberoses are some of the most widely renowned flowers for fragrance, and obviously the sensitivity to smell vary from person to person. The plant, as you can see, has quite a grassy appearance, and the leaves are green, about 30 to 50 centimeters long, and about up to 13 millimeters wide. They are slightly succulent, very slightly anyway. I wouldn't really, nothing really comparable to the most of the species in the genus Agave. The inflorescence, as you can see, it's a spike. This plant in particular developed a wonderful spike, and it is can be up to 1 meter high. This one in particular is just about 70 centimeters high, but I have this one, obviously, that is quite small. Unfortunately, this spike just developed just one blooming flower, while I have another couple of spikes still in progress, it seems. But I really wanted to show you the beauty of this spike. It is really well developed. In the species, in the most common species, the most common variety, the flowers are white. In this one, the pink sensation, they have a very light pink hue, very nice. That is pretty evident already in the tubular flower, but also on the tepals. I think you can see, if I focus on the flower, the pink hue, especially the pink tones, especially in some of the tepals. It's like a gentle pink flush. Definitely, anyway, the plant is not renowned for the color, but for the fragrance. The flowers, as you can see, are tubular. They're about 6 centimeters. They can be up to 6 centimeters long. Mine are a bit smaller, about 4 centimeters long, and they end up with 6 tepals. Just to remind you, some flowers, in some flowers, both the petals and the sepals have a very similar shape, so they are basically, in these cases, they are known as tepals, and this kind of peculiar flower is quite common in several species, including lilies and tulips. The sepals and the the sepals and the petals do not really are not very different from each other, and actually they look pretty similar. Quite a different story from most flowers that instead have sepals and petals very different. For example, in the irises, they are completely different. The species, about the flower, as you can see, there are 6 stamens, and there is obviously the stigma at the that you can see in this flower that I'm trying to focus here at the top. This white kind of triangular area. This quite triangular area here on top of the flower. The species was first described by Carl Linnaeus in 1753 as Polianthes tuberosa, but then it was moved in another genus, in a new genus, in 1790 by Frederick Casimir Meriton, who named it Tuberosa amica. And after being found that the plant actually belongs to the genus Agave, the plant has been reclassified as Agave amica, even if it is mainly known as Tuberose or Polianthes tuberosa. While believed to be native to Mexico, this species is no longer found in the wild, it seems, probably due to the fact that it has been so widely cultivated by Aztecs, and probably they collected all the wild specimens when they started cultivating it, and you can't really find it anymore in the wild. However, I could couldn't find any more information about any other theory about the fact that this plant is no longer found in the wild. It is currently grown in many tropical and temperate areas as well. Obviously, in tropical and subtropical areas, it can be grown all year round outside. In temperate or cold areas, it's usually better to keep the tubers in the winter in a frost-free place and dry. The fragrance of the tuberose is very intense and is widely used in the perfume industry as both as essential oil, but also in perfumes. In particular, the plant has been used in industry since the 17th century, and in particular throughout Europe when the plant was first introduced from Mexico. Marie Antoinette, the Queen of France, used a perfume called Sillage de la Reine, or Perfume de Trianon, that contained the essential flower essence of the tuberose. The tuber is still widely used in the perfume industry. However, it needs the essence, the oil, needs to be used very in small quantities, because the essence can be overpowering, and the person wearing this essence can be actually nauseated. And indeed, this is a plant that is, while the fragrance is really incredible, some varieties, as I said, like to me, the variety, the Pearl, had such a strong fragrance that was really too much for me, really intoxicating and a little bit nauseating. However, as I said, some my parents, for example, and some friends of mine, they loved instead the fragrance of the Pearl. A friend of mine used to have the plant when in flower in the bedroom, because she loved the smell around the bedroom coming from this plant. Please remember that just one plant with just one flowering stem can perfume the whole room. And actually, when the tuberose is in flower, I have it in one small room indoors, not in my bedroom, because in my bedroom is too much. I have it in a small dining room, and still I can already feel the fragrance from the corridor. So, and this is for just one flower spike. If you have a pot like me, but where more than one flower spikes are in bloom, definitely you want to think twice before bringing the plant in a small room. The flowers, in addition, obviously, to be used for perfumes and as ornamental purposes, they are used to make garlands, for example, in India and Bangladesh, but also for cooking, such as in Indonesia. The tuberose can be grown outdoors in zone 8 to 10. However, here in Kent, I forgot 1 year a pot of tuberose, the Pearl, outside, and actually it was a pretty cold winter. It was the winter that we had a beast from the east, so temperature down to -7, and the following spring I could find only one tuber still intact. All the other ones were rotten. So from that year onwards, I decided to keep the tuberose, to lift the tuberose from the pots in autumn, usually November, December, when the foliage dies down, and then keep them in a frost-free place in my living room. Usually in winter the night temperature is about 10 degrees, so it's not too hot, but not too warm either, and anyway it's frost-free, and most importantly is also dry, because obviously is, especially as in most bulbs and tubers, is the combination of cold and wet that really damages the tubers or the bulbs of tropical and subtropical plants. However, as I said, if the temperature in the ground falls below -7 or -7 degrees Celsius, it's better to obviously lift the bulbs and put them indoors or in a frost-free place or in a greenhouse. Otherwise, obviously, you can keep them in the pot, being careful, obviously, of putting the entire pot in the greenhouse, and to put it back after the last frost date. So bring it in before the first frost, and then you can bring it out after the last frost date. Tuberose plants need at least 4 months of warm weather, and particularly full sun, before the plant flowers. So this is the reason because many people prefer to start the tubers growing indoors, so they can enjoy an earlier blooming, or and actually extend the flowering season, or planting tubers at different times of the spring. They can obviously have flower spike throughout summer and autumn, so extend the blooming season of this wonderfully fragrant plant. About the rhizomes, sorry, not the rhizomes, the tubers. This plant obviously can be divided by offsets. However, it can also be reproduced by seeds. I never tried by seeds, but it produces offsets quite easily. If you start the tubers, you start plant the tubers after the last day of frost, as I do usually in May, the plants will not bloom before late August or September. About the flowers, as I said, usually it is white. However, some varieties are pink, like this one, the Sensation, but there are also yellow varieties. Some of them have simple flowers like this, however others, like the Pearl, that is one of the most common, has a double flower, and all of them are very fragrant. When you in autumn actually, when the leaves start to die down, actually you can see already some of the leaves drying up now. You can, when they are all dried up, you can just cut them and leave the tubers, or bring the pot in a frost-free place, as I said. The most popular variety is still called the Pearl, that is a double variety. However, as I said, new varieties, including the Pink Sensation, are now more and more common, and in this way you can increase the color variety of the tuberose, even if, as I said, really is not the color what makes this plant stunning, is really the fragrance. And actually it seems that another variety called Mexican Single, even if it not double, seems to be even more fragrant, and that seems to last longer as a cut flower. I'm pretty happy of this variety Sensation, or Pink Sensation, because the flowers are stunning, really nice fragrance, very intense, and the fragrance is very sweet. I can't really feel any citrusy fragrance. It's a pity, because I really love the citrus essence in a flower, but still the sweet fragrance is actually quite nice to smell. And as long as it is one flower spike, I love to have this a flower spike at home. I think I can't bear more than one in a room, but obviously this depends by this varies, as I said, by how much you like the fragrance of this plant. The tuberose was beloved not only by Marie Antoinette, but also by Louis XIV of France, and he actually had this species planted in the flower beds of the Grand Trianon of Versailles, so the scent back then was incredible. So as you know by what I found in online, in particular on Wikipedia, is a great page about the tuberose plant. It is really one of the most beloved plants in history, from Aztecs to the French monarchs, to obviously all of us gardeners that love, in addition to flower colors, also a beautiful fragrance. About cultivation tips from me in particular, as I said, I prefer to plant these tubers in pots rather than in the ground, because in this way it's easier to actually harvest the tubers when they are not in when they lose the leaves and when they die down. And also in this way, if you plant them in pot, you can easily bring them indoors if you would like to perfume your room or your house. Depends obviously how much you love intense fragrances, but definitely if you have a big living room, for example, a pot with this with the tuberose, it will perfume your room and probably your entire house if you have a very sensitive nose in a great way. Another recommendation is keep the plant absolutely in full sun and do not waterlogged at all. I have here, because I have this pot in the room, I have a big saucer here that I am very careful that doesn't get any water more than 1 centimeter higher, because the tubers are very sensitive to rot in this particular species. When I usually cultivate the tuberose in this pot without any saucer outdoors, I found that the tuberose is actually quite resistant to drought, probably because anyway, as many other members of the genus Agave, it can stand quite dry conditions, even if I would never let the tuberose dry up as much as most of the other relatives, because obviously you can see by the leaves they are not as succulent, and still they allow quite a lot of perspiration. However, I found that definitely for a tuberose it's better to be a little bit more on the dry side rather than on the wet side. Most important anyway, as I said, full sun. Also, ideally, remember to fertilize them routinarily. The tuberose is not really the easiest flower to bloom. I had a pot of tuberose de pearl this year, but it bloomed about 1 week ago, but with only 2 flowers on 1 spike, and none of the other 6 plants developed any spike. Actually, 1 developed another spike, but this was eaten by slugs, and that's another thing. Please remember to keep slugs and snails under control, because they seem to love both the foliage and the flowers, and especially the flowers of the tuberose, probably because they put so much effort in producing the scent that must be obviously very rich in energy and food sources, that slugs and snails just go crazy for this plant. About the soil, I use a very well drained compost, so you can use normal compost is fine, like multi-purpose compost, but in a pot. But if you plan to plant the tubers in the ground, I really would recommend sand or grit in order to ensure a very good drainage, because as I said, this plant prefers to be on the dry side rather than on the wet side. And again, rather than really planting outdoors in the garden, that obviously it's something you can do. Me personally, I prefer to plant these tubers in the pot, so in the winter I can harvest them easily after the foliage dies down. And anyway, when the plant is in bloom, if I want, I can bring the pot in at home and enjoy the wonderful fragrance indoors. However, the tuberose is also a wonderful cut flower. As a cut flower, it lasts about a week, sometimes even more. It is obviously depends how many flowers as well develop on the flower spike. You can see here in this flower spike only 1 flower that is already faded developed. Or sorry, I'm trying to focus on the flower. I don't think you can really see it. Yeah, you can really see it now. So in this flower, just 1 developed, and these other ones dried up without developing. But this is the only one that so far developed fully, and it is absolutely gorgeous. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm sorry if it was a bit too long, but really I wanted to tell a little bit more about the cultivation of the plant, but most importantly also a bit about the taxonomy and also about the general peculiarities of this plant. And as I said, if you love fragrances, this is a plant that can one of the plants I can recommend the most. It is a gorgeous fragrance, very sweet, and if you bring the pot in your house, you can really smell the tuberose perfume from meters away. It's an absolutely stunning fragrance. So I hope you enjoy the video, and if you like the video, it would be great if you give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, obviously please give it a thumbs down, and please, it would be great if you can leave comments down below, so I can I can read your opinions about this video. And obviously, if you like this video and the other videos on my channel, it would be great if you can please subscribe to support this channel and also to get updates and when I publish new videos. Thanks very much for watching, and hopefully I will see you next time. Bye.